in a relationship where you might be listening to this and realizing, oh my God, I didn't recognize this, but I'm actually trying to change my partner. I am forcing them into change rather than sitting back and saying, I accept them as they are or as they aspire to be. And I'm just going to focus on me.
But basically behind the scenes, I said, brother, I need to know, like, I have to do this. This is a calling for me. I have to do this with or without you. I want it to be with you.
Conscious couples, business partners, and individuals, welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and relationship expertise to help you consistently cultivate the most magnificent relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges. We'll help you have the courage to be your authentic self, communicate effectively, and constructively resolve conflict.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching, speaking, podcasting, and hosting live events with conscious couples all over the world, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. This is take 2. Woo! Tell no one. No, today we have episode 174. Are you trying to change your partner? Definitely been there. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this podcast. And apparently we consult and or produce with 70 podcasts now. So thank you. If you want to start, scale, grow, or monetize your podcast, reach out to myself or my business partner, Kevin. This is what we do best. Sweetheart, what is your intention for today's episode?
My intention for today's episode is for our listeners to scroll away, fly away, jump away from this episode into their busy lives, knowing with 100% certainty whether or not they are trying to change their partner. Because when you're in a growth-oriented relationship, that is something that we see time and time again come up with conscious couples. So what do I mean by growth orientation, and how does that matter as it pertains to what we're going to be talking about today? Growth orientation is someone who has a growth mindset and you have a proclivity or you want to grow. So this is like reading more books. This is tracking your habits. This is trying to get around people that want better for you and to try to help you reach your potential. And when you're in a relationship, like a conscious couples relationship, there's likely one of you that has a far higher growth orientation than the other one. That's what we've seen. And so just like I had 2 clients that I want to share to ground this episode in an example where one of them we're going to name Alice, the other one we're going to name Chase. Okay. So Alice was the one who in this relationship, she was the more growth oriented partner. She was the one that was so excited to get up every single day, do her habits and track them and improve them as she went. She was the one that was excited and eager to read her books and pull out every single bit of information that she could have and jam that into her consciousness so that she could go and get after the world in the way in which she believed was possible for her. And she would do that again, wash, rinse, repeat, and she would get better. She realized that she had a higher degree of self-efficacy, or she believed in herself, for lack of better words, more than her partner did. And so when she found herself in this relationship with Chase, essentially she realized that, holy crap, I am like way more eager than Chase to get after this growth. And she and her partner had come to us at Relationship Talks Coaching, and she's like, we're struggle bussing. And how do I navigate this? Because I want my partner to grow and I want them to want, them loving growth just like I do, but I don't want to force them into this. And that's where this whole conversation around, does she want her partner to change, or is she willing to accept her partner and where they're at as they are? Because that's something that if she had consistently just tried to push her partner up the hill, which she did at one point, aka trying to change her partner, trying to count down the days as to whether or not her partner, when she said that she wanted to read the book, did she read it or did they not, right? And so this partner Alice was just so focused on wanting to have her partner be right there with her in the growth journey, which we're all guilty of. The thing is here, that put a huge degree of back pressure on the relationship and didn't allow Chase to grow at her own rate and to change in the way and in the pace that she needed to change in her own accord.
So I remember coaching Alice. In this case, these are not the real names, and for privacy purposes. So I was coaching Alice, and Alice came to me and said, my partner is drinking too much and too often. And I want to get better, and I'm more goal-oriented, and I want to achieve my dreams, and I want to quit drinking, and I want to read books and track habits, everything you mentioned. And I don't want to change her because she loves to drink, but I also don't really want to be with a partner who drinks so much and so often. And a lot of times when she drinks, we fight. So I think that that's a very relatable example of this sort of duality that I wanted to bring up today. Emilia and I off air, we talked about this. On one hand, you have to accept and unconditionally love your partner for their essence and for who they are. That's why you fell in love with them in the first place. But on the other hand, you also need to hold some level of a standard. And I playfully joked before we prepped for this podcast episode, and I said, sweetheart, if I was a belligerent drunk who smoked cigarettes, you would have to leave me. And I'm not joking. I actually think you should.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the hard truth that a lot of us don't want to admit. And I've said this to you before too, because in our relationship, you've said one time, you said, we'll agree to disagree. I said, sweetheart, that might work with an acquaintance.
I take it back.
Yeah, we live together. We live together. There's certain things we're going to have to agree on, and we're going to have to integrate. And I think that it's a little bit of a pipe dream to think that you can just unconditionally accept anything about your partner while also being all of you. Because if this person doesn't want to drink and doesn't want to party and wants a partner who also is growth-oriented, she's going to have to either, one, drag this person up a mountain they don't want to climb, or two, leave them. Or three, and this is where I want to kick it to you, because those first two options both kind of suck. Dragging someone up a mountain they don't want to climb is like me forcing someone to listen to this podcast. Trust me, I've done it. No, I'm joking. But at the end of the day, if you're growth-oriented, you listen to this podcast. And if you have a partner, by the way, and you're listening right now, and you have a partner that you would be reluctant to share this with, most likely they don't have a lot of growth orientation. People who don't want to reach their potential in life and business and their relationship don't typically listen to Emilia and I. Understandable.
Yeah.
If you have a fixed mindset and you don't think you can change your future, why would you listen to a podcast that is, quite frankly, more boring than Netflix without the desire to actually build that future, right? So my question, love, is instead of dragging your partner up a mountain that they don't want to climb, which I've definitely done in the past, and instead of the opposite, which is just settling completely and letting them do and be whatever the hell they want, even if it affects you negatively, what is the alternative?
This is what I said to her when she was essentially asking that question during one of our coaching sessions, because she was at that pivotal point where she holds her standards and says, I'm going this way and I would love for you to come, but I'm not going to settle and I'm not going to tolerate what this relationship has been, because that would be out of integrity for me. And she was at that point where she was either going to take that road or she was going to take the road of just completely collapse into the low standards of her partner. And I shared with her the difference and the paradox between hope and belief. And in this conversation, it's really, really critical to talk about that from my perspective, because if you don't believe in your partner's ability to change, what are the chances that you're actually going to invest in the way in which we're going to talk about in this episode, which means not necessarily tolerate the behavior that is dragging them down, but what are the chances that you're actually going to believe in their ability to see you and think on their own accord, hey, I might want to read my own book too. And if you're just leaning on hope, I hope my partner changes, I hope my partner changes, but you don't believe in them, that's actually not fair to either one of you. And vice versa, if you do not have belief, but you have a lot of belief and you don't have hope, then you're kind of screwed, because you're leaning on one at the expense of the other. And so what I shared with her,
Good.
what I shared with her is that you can believe in her ability to change on her own accord, but you cannot force her to change. You have to hope that she's going to want that journey with you. But if she doesn't, you also need to accept that as it is. You cannot change someone who doesn't want to change, who doesn't believe in their ability and doesn't believe in themselves. However, you can hold up the mirror of what is possible by you going your merry way and saying, I would love for you to come with me, and I believe in your ability. You cannot change, though, if your partner just doesn't want to and isn't interested and doesn't believe in themselves and doesn't have hope in the relationship because of their own inability to change.
I did this with my business partner, Kevin, at one point. I sat Kevin down and I said, brother, I honestly am starting to feel bad that you have to, I feel like I'm dragging you up this mountain that you don't necessarily want to climb. And we have a podcast called Next Level University. It's a business called Next Level University. We have an 18-person team, for those of you who don't know, and we're building a very large business. Next Level University is designed to help people reach their potential in personal development, personal success, podcasting, and business. And I said, I can't build a $1 billion company with you unless you're going to invest a lot more time and effort. And I said, sometimes on the podcast, and he wouldn't mind me sharing this, by the way, we've talked about this on our podcast, openly, publicly. So Kev, if you're listening, what's up, man? But basically behind the scenes, I said, brother, I need to know, like, I have to do this. This is a calling for me. I have to do this with or without you. I want it to be with you. But sometimes I feel like on the podcast, you're advocating more for average or ordinary or mediocre or normal than you are for next levelness. This is next level you, not dad bod you. I was being playful with that last part because him and I really let our standards slip for a while. And we were catering to our listeners more than to our own standards. And so I said, brother, I want to do this with you. I don't want to do this with anyone else. But I have to keep climbing. And if you don't want to, I need to know now because I can't find out 5 years from now that you aren't really invested.
Hey everyone, this is Alicia. I wanted to take a second and give a shout out to Alan and Emilia. I've been listening to Next Level University podcast for a while now, and I've also joined in on group coaching and book club, and I've gained so much value from these. And recently, I have started listening to the Conscious Couple podcast, and then joined in on their monthly meetups with relationship talks. And from here, my wife and I decided to jump on a call with them, and we had a few questions. This has just been a great experience. They not only provided us with some great tips and things to implement, they also got back with us and to check and see how we were doing. And that has just meant so much to my wife and I. And I just really wanted to give a shout out and thank them so much. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast or join in on the relationship talks, I highly recommend that. And also just jump on a call with them and get to know them a little bit better and just really lean into this resource. It's just been so valuable and I really appreciate it.
And so for a long time, I did lower my standards to try to be business partners with him because I would feel bad that I would work 6 days a week and he wouldn't. And now I basically said, brother, like, if you don't want to do this, I totally understand. He said, brother, I'm in. I'm all in. Whatever tell me what to do. I'll lop off an arm, whatever you need. He was being playful. But at the end of the day, I now got him to recommit to the mountain that we're climbing together. But I had to first accept him for who he is and accept me for who I am. Because I said, brother, for me, this isn't a choice.
Yeah.
26, when I got in that car accident, I found some people have a job, some people have a career, some people have a calling. I found my calling. My calling is to reach my own unique potential and help others do the same and to build a company that helps people do that. I have to climb this mountain. I'm not dragging you up it. I need to know you want to climb it too. And I think that that's a good metaphor, a good example for people because in the past, I never had the courage or the awareness to sit my past partners down. I always joke about that partner who said, Alan, dating you is like dating a fucking Stairmaster. The reason, what she was trying to say is, do you ever stop? And the truth is no. I'm never going to stop growing. I'm never going to stop reaching. I'm never going to stop pushing. I'm never going to stop raising my standards. I'm never going to stop growing and evolving and improving. That's what I believe life is about. And I'm never going to stop. If you want me to stop trying to reach my potential, you want me to stop being Alan fucking Lazarus. And I'm not able to do that. Trust me, I've tried.
That's what I said to this client too. It's like, you're never going to stop being who you are, and you are hyper growth oriented, and do not ever slow down for someone that is in your life that has a different growth orientation, number one, and a different growth pace. And so I had her admit to herself, are you okay with being the catalyst of change?
Nice.
Because when you have a higher growth orientation than your partner, you have to go into that radical acceptance that you're not going to drag them. With you. Yeah, you're not going to drag them up the mountain, but they sure as hell might not come with you. Yeah. And are you okay with being the nudge or the poker? And where are your limits on that? Is it you nudge once and that's it? You nudge once, twice, and 3 times is your limit. You need to know your limits as a catalyst of change. And so my question back to you, my love, is I think on the topic of unconditional love in a relationship where you might be listening to this and realizing, oh my God, I didn't recognize this, but I'm actually trying to change my partner. I am forcing them into change rather than sitting back and saying, I accept them as they are or as they aspire to be, and I'm just going to focus on me. How does unconditional love play into this? Or are there conditional loves that are worth talking about on this episode?
Well, one of the things that I think is in the context of this business partnership, there's equity, there's other things like that. Like if you're going to put in less effort, that's okay. But we're going to have to change equity. We can't be 50-50 business partners with me putting in 80% and you only putting in 20%. But I think that that's a good metaphor.
Interesting overlay.
That's a good metaphor for intimate relationships as well. And we did a event one time that was based on a documentary called Fair Play. We highly recommend it. Look it up. It's called Fair Play. It talks about the inadequacies between men and women statistically over time, that essentially, if Emilia is responsible for 80% of the household and I'm only doing 20%, well, that's not fair to her. And there's a book, apparently one of my clients is reading it, I haven't read it yet, called 80-80, where both partners are trying to give more and more and more. I try to get 80%, you try to get 80%. So Emilia and I are fighting for who can do more for the other person. It's a great place to be. Terrible place to be if you're the only one doing that.
For sure.
But anyway, so the unconditional love thing, I remember, I'll never forget, I was in calculus, AP Calc class, and my favorite teacher of all time, her name's Christine Pryor. And her and I used to argue about conditional love and whether or not it exists. 2 guesses which one I'm on. She was saying she unconditionally loves her husband. And I said, that's some bullshit. If he woke up every day and slapped you in the face first thing every single day, imagine me in high school doing this.
I love it.
And if you woke up every day and slapped you in the face first thing, you wouldn't love him 2 years from then. She's like, no, I still would. I know. And yeah. Okay, well, you shouldn't. But anyway, so the point is it's both. It's both. And I can unconditionally love Kevin for who Kevin is as my business partner and not tolerate a business partner who isn't willing to put in 110%. And that means that I have to be willing to leave in order to, and here's the cool part. I felt like I was dragging him for a little while, and I've talked to him. He wouldn't mind even hearing this. Now I don't feel like I'm dragging him at all because we had the conversation and he got to go into his own mind and go, wait a minute, no. I want to be here. Yeah. I get to do this, not I have to, because it started feeling like I have to. So I think that's a good metaphor for people. We do got to jump because I got to be on book club in 3 minutes. Love, let's wrap this in a bow.
You can unconditionally love your partner at their essence, and you can conditionally love them on their behaviors. And I think that that's incredibly important when it comes to your relationship and changing people. More importantly, making sure what are you willing to tolerate in terms of change within yourself.
So that was fire.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can unconditionally love your partner for their essence and conditionally love them in the relationship when it comes to their behavior.
Facts.
So I can't be ripping darts, smoking, drinking.
Can. I'll love you, but from afar.
Yeah, exactly. I know I can't. I'm going to be a belligerent, degenerate drunk.
Yeah, go do that.
No, far away, right? And that's the truth of it is you can have acquaintances where they don't need to have standards, but if you're in a circle, you got to be careful. So I understand why this is so hard because it's both.
It is.
It's always both. I unconditionally love you, sweetheart, and you and I have to hold each other accountable to raising our standards and growing.
Yes.
Because you will outgrow me if I don't keep growing too. And that's why relationships are so hard, and that's why we built this podcast. So if anyone needs help with this, if you feel like you're the more growth-oriented partner, which most likely if you're listening to this, you most likely are, reach out to us. We do relationship talks coaching. The first one is free. The link will be in the show notes.
Also in the show notes, do not forget to hit the registration link, because that's in there for our next relationship talks event, which is how to determine your relationship commitment level. Alan and I are an incredibly committed relationship, and he and I set the tone for so many couples that look up to us. And it's not necessarily just about that, but it's about what we've learned about commitment that we're going to bring to that event. So this is going to be June 19th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you liked this podcast episode, then we're going to get into all things commitment level, where your relationship at, where it's not, how it can change, how it will never change, and all of that will be in the event. So click the link to register.
Conscious couples and conscious singles, listeners, what's happening? I just want to jump in here real quick to show you these horses.
Which you and I are matching, by the way.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize it. Should we put our foreheads together?
We should. Well, that'll be the thumbnail. Seriously. All right. So this is a horse that is beautiful stallion black, and that represents the yin, the masculine. And then we have the feminine beauty over here, the white. And Emilia and I did not actually do this on purpose.
So
we are
cute.
matching, so we're going to put our foreheads together here. We have fun. Production team, please make sure that's the thumbnail. Okay.
So fun.
As always, thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. It's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please check the show notes to connect with us and say hello on social media.
If you and your partner resonated with this episode, please leave us a 5-star review at the link in the show notes and share this with someone you love. Until next time, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.